أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I bear witness that without Allah there is no God. I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet old or new will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. One of the acknowledgements of almost every nation on the face of this earth in modern times is what is called the pursuit of happiness. That each and every individual has the right to pursue happiness, to be happy, to find ways and means of happiness. But there are no systems in place in order to make people happy. And we've noticed that in many parts of the world, people are suffering and they are unhappy. Even the wealthy people are not satisfied. They complain about taxes, they complain about employees, they complain about so many things. Everyone is complaining in some way or the other. One of the reasons for that is because the administration of people's lives is left to politics, which has isolated the church from its ideas and concepts. They have developed their own constitution, rules, laws, regulations, fines, whatever it may be. Or they have depend upon economics. They think the happiness in life means that you have to be wealthy and rich and have a good standard of living. Or perhaps education or science. They say we need to move with the science in today's world. No one really points out that, in fact, happiness depends upon what is within the individual, not what is outside of the individual. Whatever is outside of us is what we call ephemeral, transient. It wouldn't last. And if it does last, we may not last to enjoy it. Or it doesn't necessarily mean that we die. We can be in a state of ill health. We can be blind that we cannot enjoy the beautiful colors. We can be deaf that we cannot hear beautiful sounds. We can have certain neuro problems that we cannot feel and touch softness. But we can always, regardless of our condition, even if a person is in a coma, it has been established, they can feel love. They can understand caring and kindness to them, charity. All of these are qualities that are within the individual. Indeed, all religions teach this philosophy, that true happiness and heaven is within us, not outside of us. And it is that which is within us that we'll take into the life hereafter. Jesus is reported to have said in the Gospels that the kingdom of heaven is within you. And the Quran itself indicates to us that God will not change your external situation until you change what is within you. If you want outside to be happy, change the inside and let the inside be happy. Indeed, and even in the Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, they look at the entire world outside as what is called Maya, an illusion, not real. That the real self is within you. So that all religions teach this particular concept. How, therefore, can we get the world, whether the religious world or whether the political world, military world, whatever whoever is ruling or ordinary people, how can we get them to really find happiness, to develop that inner spirit within them? The first point we have to adopt is to get rid of the concepts that are held by almost every religion, including the religion of Islam, or the Muslims who subscribe to the religion of Islam. And what is that concept? The concept is that religion is really designed to give us a ticket to heaven, a place in paradise. So we live and we perform certain rituals in order that we can find a heavenly life after we leave this world. Whatever we do in this world, good or bad, yes, we'll be rewarded with the good, and if we do bad, there's opportunity for forgiveness. We either follow the Prophet Muhammad, believe in Jesus Christ, or you perform certain rituals or pujas or whatever it may be, you sing certain satsangs and so on. Different religions have different methods, but you can escape the punishment for your sins. That is what religion offers. The Holy Quran, however, gives us one single verse. Among all the other verses, yes, which they're important and they have their relevance, but there is one single verse which guarantees us that if all of human beings can understand this verse and apply it in their lives, make it the focus of their lives, everyone will be happy. The world will be a happy place. Is that possible? The verse that I've recited is well known to so many of you because it is read every Friday in the second Khutba of Jumu'ah. And the reason why religion must not be looked at, and that idea has to be totally eliminated as a ticket to heaven, as a means of salvation, is because the real purpose of religion is to build the human character, the human personality. This is what should be taught in schools. And you don't need any religion to tell you that. Well, of course, the Quran does tell us, but the ideas in the Quran can be implemented by any people of any faith, even atheists, even those who don't believe in God, or those who have some kind of wrong concept of God. If they understand this verse of the Quran, they can find happiness and give happiness to the world. There is in every religion what is known as the golden rule. And that is, you do unto other people what you want them to do to you. In other words, do for do. You do something and you do a favor, you expect a favor in return. Now, in Islam, that is the lowest form of goodness. The golden rule is the lowest. In other religions, it's the highest form. And this verse of the Quran teaches us that. Here there are three kinds of goodness that are identified in this verse of the Quran. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl. I interpret these verses as follows. In chapter 16, verse 90 of the Quran. Allah insists on fairness, on giving a bonus, and good-heartedness. He objects to obscenity, hurtfulness, and lawlessness. He cautions you for you to be aware. Two simple sentences in this verse. One positive, telling us what we must, how we can develop ourselves, and one negative, what are the issues we should avoid. They being opposite to each other. It firstly tells us about adl. Adl means good for good, the golden rule. You do good and you get a return for it. What people may call civil rights, or any action which requires some kind of payment. You do unto others as they would do unto you. So that even every ordinary act that we perform is an act of adl. If a shopkeeper sells you an item, goods, you get the item because he has brought it from wherever it is that you are unable to go and get it in that quantity or so, and then he benefits because you pay him. So you're both doing good to each other. Or a taxi driver transports you and you pay him. So any action which is requires some kind of giving and taking between the parties is what is called adl. And that's the lowest form of goodness in the Quran, according to the Quran. The word adl really literally means to weigh or to measure one thing against another. to put something on a scale, to have a balance. So I give and you give me, I give you. Or to bring equality or likeness between two things. But more important, it means that you must think before you act. Thinking before action, before acting, is the meaning of real meaning of adult. So before I purchase something, I must know what I want to buy. I must look at the quantity, the quality, the value that I'm getting, and similarly, the price that I'm paying for it, and similarly, the person who is selling me would want to ensure that they are not getting a fraudulent check or that they're getting, the value, what the real payment, actual payment for what they are selling us. The second highest form of goodness is ihsan. It means doing good without having any expectation of reward, any payment. Or, if you pay, you do a little extra. This is what we call human rights. People have a right and we give them an extra good. We do something extra for them. In other words, the expression usually is going beyond the call of duty or community spirit. People who volunteer, I do something for my mosque, my Jumu'ah, my community, my family in the home. As a young child, my parents are not there, but I decide I should clean the house, or I should wash the dishes, or I should do something which would be of benefit. They didn't ask me to, but out of my good free will, I do so. And any kind of honorary service that people give to their community, their family, or their society. So that's the second form of goodness. So it is, if for example, you hire a taxi to carry you in a particular place, but rain is falling, or the place is muddy, or the road is dark, and the taxi driver says, okay, I'll take you straight up to where you are, I won't drop you here, and I won't charge you any extra. Or you purchase something from a store or some business person, and they give you what is called an IOP. They give you something extra, bonus. So that's the second form of goodness. So it's higher than adal, it's higher than the golden rule. But the Quran goes even a stage further than that, where it says, Ita'i zil qurba. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i zil qurba. What is Ita'i zil qurba? Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam and the Mujaddid, has explained this verse in a very nice way. It means to do good even in the face of opposition and hostility. Now, many people do good if they get in payment. Many people do extra good because that's their nature. They like to help other people. But sometimes you are faced with hostility and opposition and rejection, and you still have to continue doing what you have to do. So this Ita'i zil qurba is really a natural tendency to do good. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad has explained it in this way. He says, it's like a mother that is feeding the child. The child is crying. The child is kicking maybe the mother in his face, moving, pushing away. She would still feed the child. This is a natural tendency. That's why it says, Ita'i zil qurba. It is really given to the relatives or close ones to you. In other words, that person is so close to you. Whatever they do, you are still Ita'i, you are still giving to them. You have it also in a practical way, not only in that case. You have, in life, you have teachers, for example, they teach. Why do they teach? Because they want a salary. That is one purpose. That is adal. Sometimes they give a little extra lessons. That is ihsan. But sometimes they teach because they want the child to succeed. They dedicate themselves to child. They do it for nothing. They even if they're doing something and it costs them their job. I recall someone telling me that one of members of our Anjuman was a very good teacher for years in a particular school that was non-Ahmadi, and was due for promotion and could have been a principal, but was refused that position merely because he was an Ahmadi. And someone said to him, why don't you fight this? You're being denied your rights. Why don't you fight it? And he said, look, why should I fight? The children are more important to me than my salary, than getting a bigger salary. The children are more important. I am satisfied in what I'm doing. And he dedicated himself. So that's the kind of attitude that people need to adopt in life. That you're doing things naturally. It becomes part and parcel of your nature to be just doing good to people. And that is what is meant by Ita'i zil qurba. And then the Quran says, وَيَنْهَا عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ. Allah now indicates to us that there are certain things that He disagrees with, He objects to. And what are these? They are the exact opposite of them. First is called fahsha. Fahsha means an action whose evil rebounds or affects your own self. It affects oneself. Just as ihsan means the adal means that you do good to someone, you get something in return. This is you do something wrong, but it affects you. For example, you have cases in the Quran explains this in different places. You may eat or drink what is not good for your health. You know something is not good for you, but you are taking it. People take drugs and alcohol, for example. Or sometimes you take extra medication. Doesn't only mean forbidden things, even lawful things can be overdone. The Quran warns us. Or as we say sometimes, a person not only in eating and drinking, but in action and behavior. We say you're playing with fire. You're taking certain steps which could be harmful to your own self, and they just wouldn't listen. A child will not listen, a parent, a husband, a wife or so may not listen when they are being warned in so many ways that, look, your actions can lead to something which is harmful to yourself and detrimental to your own existence. Because many people, they want to have revenge or they want to act in a rage or so. So this is what is called self-harm. People want to harm themselves. You see people who are being bullied instead of seeking some kind of assistance. They go and they commit suicide. They harm them, or they cut themselves, or they do something to bring attention to them, unless they get certain counseling. So that there are people who adopt an attitude of self-harm or revenge or hatred or rage or rash action. They don't weigh the consequences. In the case of adult, they weigh the consequences. You weigh things one against the other. In the case of fahsha, people don't weigh the consequences. They just act rashly without looking at the consequences. So adult and fahsha, when you compare them or contrast them, adult is thinking before acting. Thinking before acting, and fahsha is acting before thinking. Acting before thinking. And then the Quran goes on to indicate, وَيَنْهَا عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ. And munkar means an action whose evil affects others. Just as in the case of ihsan, I do something extra, I'm doing an evil, not only affecting myself, I'm doing something wrong, which will affect another person. Raising one's voice, quarreling, offensive behavior, stinginess, cursing, lack of empathy, lack of sympathy, spite, taking advantage of others. All of these are what is called fahsha. It's translated normally as obscenity and indecency and so on, but it has wider connotations than that. It means, ihsan is charitable behavior. You're acting out of the goodness of your heart to do something for someone. But munkar is spiteful behavior. That you're not doing it, or you're doing it because you don't have that kind of charitable behavior in your heart. And then you have, the Quran goes on to bagh. وَيَنْهَا عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ وَالْبَغْيِ. And bagh is an action whose effects exceeds all limits, goes beyond the bounds. Just as in the case of Ita'i zil qurba, you go beyond the bounds and naturally it becomes part and parcel of you to do good. Bagh is just the opposite now. The person, the part and parcel of them to do wrong and evil. The natural tendency to be cruel, always looking to pick a fight, rebellious. That is the kind of approach. So when you compare both of these, Ita'i zil qurba is being soft-hearted, and bagh is being hard-hearted. And you find that if you look at society, you would find that human beings can be divided into these categories. Basically, there are some who are in between. Sometimes some people are soft-hearted, sometimes hard-hearted, and so on. And the Quran does describe that the different categories of human beings. But you will find people who are criminals. We ask ourselves, why did that person, if they had to rob, why did they have to kill? Why did they have to do it in such a way? Why did they have to blow up people? And we see this in the world today. Why do countries go to war and use weapons in order to kill other people? Billions of dollars they are spending. The Quran encourages broad sympathy and good behavior among all human beings. This is not for Muslims alone. This is why I said, understanding this verse and applying it in schools, in the society, in the community, in the courts, in the government, in every aspect of life, if these things are constantly repeated to people, that they would change their inside and adopt the three approaches of goodness and avoid and abstain from the three approaches of evil and wrongdoing. And this is offered to everyone, not only Muslims, because the Quran says, surely those who believe and those who are Jews and the Christians and the Sabians, whoever believes in Allah and the last day and does good, they shall have their reward with their Lord. There is no fear for them, nor shall they grieve. That is why in the Ahmadiyya movement, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, in order to bring this change, because Muslims are there and they are not following this aspect of the Quran. We know that. There are many Muslims who are performing the negative aspects that have been mentioned in this verse. So what he has done is he has said, look, let's commit ourselves. Let's set up a code of ethics. Let's make a commitment that we will follow these teachings. And so he instituted what the Quran recommends, a bayat, to defend Islam against Islamophobia, against Islam as a religion of terrorism. Let's show people that we are committed to peace. And so one of the conditions of bayat, the fourth condition, says that I will do nothing in any way to injure my fellow human beings in general, and the Muslims in particular, neither with the tongue, nor with the hand, nor in any other way. Why don't Muslims propose and adhere to a code of conduct like this? They are calling each other Kafir, Shia, Sunni, Ahmadi, Wahidi, Qadiani, this, all different names, each one condemning the other one. So that we live in a world in which people fight for rights. They're fighting, they want their rights. The right to land, the right to live, the right for religion, the right to wealth, the right for everything. But we have to understand that according to the Quran, when we truly understand it, rights really come from God. And rights are not what we get from others. Rights are what we give to others. Because the real individual is within us. And though whatever is within us is a gift of God. The soul that we all possess is not made up of cells. It's not made up of any material thing, concrete or iron. The body is made of these things. Body has iron in it, has also many chemicals. The soul doesn't have any chemical. The soul of the individual has the attributes of Allah. Love, truth, kindness, charity, determination. All of these are there. So, we get these attributes from God. We get it, yes. We develop them when we interact one with another by showing care and volunteering and assisting and helping and all these ihsan and adal and ihsan and ita'i zil qurba. We develop those in our interaction with each other. But the qualities we get, it's like, that's a value that we have. That's a wealth that we have within us. We already come into this world with an abundance of wealth, an entire bank of qualities. But we have to invest it, and we invest it in our relationship one with another. And when we do that, we get more and more wealthy. We get become a better human being. If every human being understands this, we'll have a world in which everyone will in fact be at peace, harmony, living in contentment and joy, and even the material things will come. They are there because we use the material things to develop these qualities within us. So one verse of the Quran, understood, practiced, and promoted, can in fact bring a change to the entire world. The Prophet Muhammad did it. He changed his world. We can change our world. Once we understand these things, especially as expressed through the Ahmadiyya movement in Islam, because no other Muslim organization will tell you these things. And that's why our commitment must be to ensure these ideas and concepts reach the wider world. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim. Wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikr al-hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem. Malikun barur raufur rahim. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. There are many people who wonder why is it in the Jumu'ah service the khutbah is given in two parts. One part, the Imam sits for a little while, then he gives the second part. That second part is, certain traditional things that you may say or do, but people may do it. There are a lot of other opportunities. People can recite the Quran, even give a smaller sermon or explanation, brief it, announcements, encourage the community in some way or the other. The reason for that is because simply, as you know, the Jumu'ah replaces the Zohar prayer. And the Zohar prayer consists of 4 rakats. 2 rakats are eliminated and the khutbah is given. And the reason for that also is to indicate that the acquisition of knowledge is just as important as prayer. You can leave off 2 rakats, but you should sit and learn and listen to the khutbah and benefit from it and put it into practice. And of course, the 2 rakats there, so there are 2, the sermon is divided into 2 where there's a sit-in period between. It also serves the purpose that when the Imam sits, that it gives the congregation an opportunity to reflect on what is said, remember some of the points. So it is important that we understand these things that we may carry on our religion in a more effective way. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam waj'alna minhum. Allahumma aghzul man khazala deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa la tajalna minhum. Inna Allaha ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i zil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkurun. Uzkurullaha yazkurkum wad'uhu yastajib lakum wa la zikrullahi ala akbar.